What up, gamers? Welcome back to Gamers Bay. I'm DJ, and the topic of today's video is the retro gaming bubble. Okay, so there's been a lot of discussion lately about the turmoil that's taking place right now in the retro gaming industry. Alright, over the last couple years, we've seen what were once high dollar games literally plummet in price. They've just fallen off a cliff. And you have this, there's a lot of oversaturation in the used gaming market, the retro gaming market, and there's a lot of people talking about the subject. But the problem is, every single discussion that I've seen is just based on speculation. Nobody's really knuckling down to look at the actual facts that may actually influence the retro gaming bubble that we're in right now. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to break it down for you. Okay, I'm not going to speculate. I'm going to point to the facts, and these are real logical facts that you can understand. Okay, for starters, there's several really important factors that help to explain why retro games are falling in price. Okay, one is economical conditions, supply and demand, and technological advancements. And I'm going to explain all these in detail. I'm going to break all this down in detail so you can understand it. Okay. For starters, I used to buy and sell video games for a living. I run a gaming news organization, and I'm very familiar with how the market works. In fact, I was there. I was buying and selling games right when prices really started to plunge, which was back in September of 2015. It really just took a nosedive. It got really bad. I used to sell a lot of PS2 games and original Xbox games, and I can tell you from experience, I watched games that were going for $30, $35 plummet down to $6 or $8. It was so bad that I shut down my business on eBay. One of our moderators, one of Gamers Bay's community moderators from Google Plus, is still operating his business, the Old School Game Vault, and I'll talk more about that later on in the video. And he's been in the industry for like a decade. Okay, so we know how this industry works. All right, and I can tell you from my experience in buying and selling games that economical conditions are a huge factor. Okay, so we're going to start there. All right, for starters, people are broke. Why is there this oversaturation in the retro gaming market right now? Why? Go on eBay and you can find any game you want, and there's like 100, 200 copies for sale. It's just ridiculous, right? People are dumping their games, and they're not just doing it for economic reasons. And I'm going to get into the other reasons why they're dumping their games. But we're going to start with the economical conditions first, so that you can make sense of everything I'm going to tell you. Okay, so for starters, over the last 16 years, the U.S. economy has just been taking a nosedive year after year after year. People are losing their jobs, and when they do go back to work, they're making a third of what they did before. A lot of us do not have the spendable income that we had back a few decades ago. We don't. We're not making $30 an hour anymore. We're making $9 or $10 an hour now. We can't afford to go out and buy everything we want. All right, so that's a really big factor. In a bad economy, what do people do? They sell their stuff. Why? Because they're broke and they can't pay their bills. If you lose your job, you start selling everything you own. It's just the way it goes. I've been there myself. A lot of you have been there. You know what I'm talking about. And back in 2015, I was buying game lots from what were once used gaming retailers that went out of business. They called it quits. Said we can't survive in this economy. They called it quits, and they just started selling their games. And then you also had another issue that was not really an economic one. It had to do with the PS4, the Xbox One, and a lot of the current games that are out in the market right now, such as PC game with Steam and so forth. And that is that when the PS4 and the Xbox One first launched, people were dumping their games to get money to help them to afford to buy the Xbox One or the PS4. They didn't have enough money. They said, I'd rather just sell off all of these old school PS2, SNES games, original Xbox games, my Nintendo games, etc., to get the new consoles. And the reason I know that is because while I was on eBay all day long, every day, buying and selling games, so I knew what was going on. I knew what the other sellers were doing. I knew what people were buying. I knew what they were selling. And you could look at the listings, you would look at the description, and people would bluntly tell you, I want to sell all these old PS2 games because I'm trying to get money together to get the Xbox One. They told you that. If you went on Craigslist back in 2015, it was the same thing. Man, I really want to get an Xbox One. I really want to get a PS4. These consoles are out. I still can't afford it. I'm just going to sell all these old games. Same thing there. If you went on Craigslist, it was listing after listing after listing of people saying, I just want to sell these games so I can get the new consoles. So it's not all economics, okay? It's also a matter of the direction the industry is going. You had new consoles come out, people want them. It makes sense. I would have sold my old games too to get the new consoles if I really wanted it bad enough. But in this situation, it's a culmination of factors, technological advancements, and we're going to get into that. Why that's a huge problem for the retro gaming industry, okay? Another thing you have to understand too is that supply and demand. That's the other factor. It's not all economics. Supply and demand, okay? People buy games. They play them, right? We all play games and so forth, but they don't buy games for the same reasons, okay? Not everybody buys video games for the same exact reasons. You have two types of buyers when it comes to video games. You have the everyday gamer who just wants to play, okay? They don't care about the condition of the game, and they don't care if it's complete. They don't care if it has a manual. They just want the game to work. Then you have this other persona of buyers that are the game collectors. They're super picky. They will pay more. They will pay $20 more to get the same game they could get for $8 because they want it mint and they want it with the perfect case, with the manual and everything. They want it perfect for their collection, okay? So you have two different personas of buyers in the gaming industry as a whole. And the thing is that the average gamer is not a collector. They just want to play, all right? And like I said, I know this from experience because I used to buy and sell games. We have a moderator who still does it. And they don't care what the condition of the game is. They're just looking to play the game, all right? And they will pay $6 or $8 to get the game they want. And they don't care if it has scratches on, as long as it plays, they're happy with it. The game collector, there's not as many of them. Their numbers are a lot less. There's a lot of them, but there's not nearly as many collectors out there as there is regular everyday gamers. Okay, there's just not. They will pay more. They will pay more for the games. But when you have a bad economy, people start selling their game collections. And we were just talking about this a minute ago. People start dumping off their games. We have seen, over the last couple years, I have seen humongous lots. People selling just gigantic collections of games, okay? Like, oh, I'm going to sell, my 25-year collection of video games for $175,000 or whatever it is. And you see the prices just come down and down and down because everybody's selling, okay? And if you include those economic factors, this stale economy, does anybody remember back in 2006, Bush's tax stimulus checks that he handed out? Yeah, our economy's been in free fall for 2 decades. We're going on close to 2 decades now. We're running into 2017. And, people are broke. They don't have as much money. And so people, even those average gamers, they're tight with their money. They're a lot tighter with a buck. This is not 1998. We're not making $40 an hour today. We're making $9 or $10 an hour. And people can't, if they're going to buy a game, they're going to buy one game. In fact, if I look at all my friends that own an Xbox One or a PS4, all of them collectively only own about 20 games. Collectively. These are people that cannot afford to go out and buy 20 games. They can only buy 1 or 2, every few months. And then, that's all they can do. And they can rent a game in the meanwhile. And so that, that keeps Microsoft, that keeps Sony on top, that keeps Steam on top, and that keeps their revenue going because people pay for subscriptions, monthly subscriptions to PSN and Xbox Live and to play games in Steam and so forth. But at the end of the day, the retro gaming industry is really in turmoil, okay? And it's because of those economic factors. It's because of supply and demand. Here's the thing. The demand right now, the supply just outweighs the demand by like 10,000 to 1. All right? There's so much saturation. There's so many new games. There's so many choices for the modern day gamer that they can't play every single game. Go look at how many games pop up on Steam. How many new games pop up on Steam in a given day? It's just ridiculous, okay? Go look at Steam's Greenlight. It's just there's so many games, there's so many choices. You can't possibly play every single game you see. You can't, I wouldn't even bother trying. If I was a billionaire, I couldn't play every game in existence. You're not going to buy every game in existence, right? So the average gamer, they're tight with their money right now. They're not willing to spend as much. People are barely scraping. Americans are barely scraping by as far as their bills go. We're trying. We're all fighting to keep our lights on. We're all fighting to put gas in our car. And at the end of the day, the last thing we're going to do is buy a video game. And then the collectors, well, a lot of them are giving up. A lot of these guys lost their jobs. They don't want to buy anymore. They're trying to sell off their collections. Okay. Some of that stuff I've bought myself. I bought huge lots of games, and our moderator in Gamers Bay from the Old School Game Vault, Brandon, he does the same thing. He gets lots like every single day of the week, okay, from what used to be diehard game collectors who are now broke, unemployed, and they need cash. They can't pay their bills. They need money. And so that is really what's driving this bubble that we're stuck in right now. People are broke. They don't have money. They're not buying as much. There's too many choices, okay? So even if the people that have the jobs and they can afford to buy these new consoles, they can afford to buy the new games, they can afford to collect the retro titles they want, they can't play every single game. They're not going to buy every single game, all right? Now, here's another factor, okay? This is the third factor. We talked about supply and demand, and we talked about economical conditions, which go hand in hand, right? Well, it's technological advancements, okay? We're in a modern era of gaming where, we have online multiplayer gaming, okay? We are in the day and age of digital interactive media, okay? People don't need to go out and buy a physical copy of a game to play it, okay? You can go on Steam, and say it's like having a freaking sale every day of the week for a whole bunch of retro titles, like pennies, like $2.99. Any game you want for $1.50. It's just ridiculous, all right? So why would somebody go pay $8 or $10 for the physical cartridge, for a Genesis cartridge, when they can just go on Steam and buy the game for $2.95? They don't have to wait for the game to come in the mail, okay? They don't have to pay for shipping. They don't have to hope and pray that they're buying from a reputable seller. They don't have to do any of that. They just go, it's instant. They have the game, it's on their computer. They have a digital download. If you go on Xbox Live, I remember as far back as 2006, Microsoft was pumping out retro games on the Xbox Arcade Marketplace. Yes, for like $5 or $6 a piece. All kinds of old school games from the Genesis days and stuff like that. And they're still doing it now. You go on PSN, Sony has been pumping out old school games from the PS2 that they're getting people to buy. Well, like I said, there's no reason for people to go to eBay and buy a retro game. If you're just a regular gamer, you're not a collector, you don't care. You don't need the physical copy of a disc. You don't need it. You get the instant digital download. You don't have to worry about the game disc being destroyed or getting scratches on it or something like that. You don't have to worry about any of that because you can just re-download the game anytime you want. You've already paid for it. It's on your account, right? So that's part of the problem, all right? So there's not as much need to go out and buy physical copies of games anymore. You know, you don't need it. This is not 1998, 1999, where, you know, we were still, you know, stuck in an era of single player gaming. And, you know, the closest thing you got to multiplayer gaming was like System Links on a PS2 and so forth, or Xbox, all right? And when Microsoft launched the original Xbox, the one thing that they did better than anybody in the gaming industry has ever done before was they got multiplayer down. Xbox Live gave something for the rest of the gaming industry to build off of, all right? Once we went digital in the early 2000s, there was no turning back. And now games, a lot of retro titles that weren't as easily accessible back 20 years ago, now you can get them right on Xbox Live. You know, you can just pay for a digital download. You have the game. Bam, you're done. Now there's another problem that's causing turmoil in the industry, and there's been some discussion about this in a lot of channels on YouTube lately, is that there's a lot of counterfeit games in the retro gaming marketplace. All right, there's a lot of counterfeit titles out there, and that drives prices down too, because like I said, those average gamers don't care if the game is fake or not. They don't care. They don't care if it's scratched or beat up. They just care that it plays. And I can tell you from my experience in buying and selling games, man, I can't tell you how many Game Boy Advance games that I got in Game Blast that I had bought off eBay, Craigslist, and elsewhere, full of counterfeit games. And I just literally throw them in the trash. I will not sell counterfeit games. If I find them, they're out. I throw them out. I don't even keep them. I throw them in the trash. I don't want anything to do with them. But unfortunately, the whole industry is flooded with counterfeit games, counterfeit NES games, counterfeit Genesis games, counterfeit Game Boy, Game Boy Advance, Game Boy Color, just all different kinds of consoles, all different types of games, counterfeited to just complete hell. And the people selling these counterfeit games out on platforms like eBay, which is flooded with counterfeit games right now, even to this day, is that they're selling these games for pennies on the dollar. And like I said, those average gamers, they're going to buy them. They don't care. They don't care if they're counterfeit. They just want to get the game and play it. You know, if it plays like the original game, then they're good. They're happy. And a lot of them really can't. If you're not a game collector, you may not be able to tell the difference between the counterfeit game and the original. Okay, I'll tell you what. A lot of these Game Boy Advance games that I was getting that were fake almost fooled me. I looked at it and was like, wait a minute. You know, the coloration wasn't right, the label wasn't right, something wasn't right, the pins weren't right on the back. There were certain things that were off. Sometimes they were very, very subtle. I mean, these were some really, really, really good reproductions, okay? These were some really good fakes that people pulled off. And there's money in the retro gaming industry. There's money in it, okay? It's a multi-billion-dollar industry, okay? And you look a lot. Not everything's come down in price. Not the entire market hasn't crashed, and we'll get into that in a second too. The entire, you know, the retro gaming market is not dead, but there is a lot of titles that did not hold their value and they've kind of plummeted. Okay, and then you do have you know, arcade hardware, SNK from SNK and Capcom. That stuff is just skyrocketing. You're talking to thousands of dollars for a single board, a single ROM. It gets really, really expensive. The die-hard arcade game collectors, they want that stuff, and they're willing to pay big bucks for it, especially for US versions of hardware. That is really, really popular. That is hard to find at times for SNK and so forth on platforms like eBay or even Craigslist and elsewhere. And so, yeah, you have, like I said, you have all of these counterfeit games. You have economical conditions. You have supply and demand. You know, you have the digital downloads, those technological advancements with the digital downloads and so forth. And so there you have it. There's your retro gaming bubble. And it's, you know, it's very unlikely that a lot of these games, like the original Xbox games, a lot of PS2 games that have dropped in value, they're probably not going to go back up in price anytime soon. I'm not counting on it. In fact, I can make a sure bet they're not going to. Okay, there's some games that hold their value and they can stand the test of time, and they can stand even a bad economy. But it doesn't look good. The industry doesn't look good. You know, a lot of people invested a lot of money into their game collections because that's just it. It was kind of like a stock market to them. They looked at it as an investment. They thought, I'm going to buy these games, I'm going to hold on to them. They're going to be worth more money. And now, guess what? The market is just saturated. Okay. If like I was telling you before, with the original Xbox and the PS2 games, a lot of those titles were going for $30, $40 a pop. The reason that they were going for those prices is because there was only so many copies available. You know, now you go out on platforms like eBay and you can find the same games. They only had 4 or 5 copies available back 3 years ago. Now there's 35 copies, 50 copies, 100 copies of this of a single freaking game for sale. Well, naturally that's going to drive down the price. Now I'm going to tell you something else about this retro gaming bubble that helped cause this. This is a huge factor, okay? Because I sold on eBay, so I would know better than anybody. The sellers on eBay are like they're half the problem, okay? They ended up broke, they weren't selling games, they were desperate. They ended up in a price war, okay? 2015 was a horrible year for the US economy. It was terrible. All right, people were not spending money. In fact, in the summer of 2015, on eBay's forums, I watched some of eBay's oldest and biggest sellers go on eBay's forums and say, we're calling it quits. We're shutting down. I've been here for 10 years, and you know what? We're not making any money. No one's buying it. We're just closing our doors. And that's unfortunate, but that's the harsh reality of the situation we're in economically right now. And people were not buying anything, so people started lowering their prices to try to get sales. They're broke. Okay, and like I said, by September of 2015, man, the first week of 2015, I literally watched every game I had for sale lose like an average of 30% of its value within less than 7 days. The prices just skated off a cliff. They just plummeted to nothing. It sucks. It's just the way it goes. But the industry as a whole, we can't just blame the economy. We can't just blame technological advancements. We can't just blame supply and demand and the fact that people bought the PS4 and Xbox One. The sellers on eBay dictate this market. I don't care what anybody says. I don't care who you are, what game collector. I don't care if you've been collecting for 40 years. eBay, the prices on eBay dictate the market. The sellers on eBay have more power over the retro gaming industry than GameStop does, or any retailer in the United States. Any single game holder, if you are buying and selling, if you are a seller on eBay, you can dictate the prices of the market. But like I said, the problem is you had thousands of sellers all stuck in this price war at the end of 2015, between September and December of 2015, going, oh my God, Joe Blow over here they're selling the same game for $10 less. I'm going to have to sell mine for $11 less. Next thing you know, you got $50 games going for $6.95. It's just nuts. All right. And, these guys have fees that they have to pay. I think it was like $65 a month plus 8% of my sales as a top-rated seller. It adds up. I had months I was paying out literally hundreds and hundreds of dollars to eBay in fees. And then you have shipping costs, and a lot of times you lose on that. People will complain about the shipping fees, about what it costs, about what the sellers charge people to ship stuff. You have no idea. It's ridiculous. It gets really, really expensive to ship these games. Okay? Prices went up this past year or so as well. And they continue to go up for shipping for first class. So that's a huge factor. I think they're half the problem. I think they're 50% of the problem is the sellers on eBay were so desperate for money that they're like, okay, let's just try to sell as many games as we can so we can get out of this. We can get some money. We can't pay our rent. We can't pay our bills. I need money. I need it right now. I've got $100,000 worth of games. Let's just get $30,000 and get out. So a lot of people did that. You had people taking hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of games, going on eBay and selling it for pennies on the dollar. Yeah, it's rough. You know, your $400 video game is now worth $60. Okay, that's just the way it goes. It sucks, but there you go. There you have it. There's your retro gaming bubble that we're stuck in right now. You know, counterfeits. You know, people dumping their games for new consoles, horrible economy, people are just broke. We still have millions upon millions of unemployed people. Don't believe the unemployment rates either. Those are a complete lie. They tell you it's 4 point whatever percent. That's a lie. Here's the thing. Once your unemployment runs out, you are no longer accounted for as being unemployed. Yeah, unless you're actively looking for work, you're not counted. You're not counted. Once your unemployment benefits run out, you're no longer counted. You're not even considered unemployed. You just don't count at all. And the government does that so that the public doesn't flip out. If the real unemployment rate's like 30% or something like that, it's ridiculous. Okay, we have like tens of millions of Americans who are unemployed, who have their unemployment benefits have already run out. Okay, they're broke. They haven't, and a lot of people have gone back to work. A lot of people have found jobs again. They're not making the wages that they did back 25 years ago. They're not. You know, people can't even get full-time work. So we don't have that spending. We don't have that kind of money to spend on video games anymore. And retro games are something that thrive in a really good economy. When the economy's good, people hold on to their stuff. They don't want to let go of it. I know if I had a really good job, I'm not going to sell my collection of retro games. I'm going to buy more. That drives the prices up. Okay, that drives up the competition, and the prices go higher. All right, but like I said, when the economy's bad, like it is right now, it's complete crap. You know, we have a society where we're stuck between the rich and the poor, and we're shrinking middle class. All right, and you know, the prices are only going to continue to fall as long as the economy remains stuck in the stalemate that it's in right now. And so hopefully things will improve with the economy. Now, here's something else you have to understand too. Okay, contrary to popular belief that we have been seeing with all the discussions about the retro gaming bubble that's going on. It's been going on the last few years. What a lot of people fail to recognize and fail to mention in their discussions is that it's not a retro gaming bubble that we're in. It's the entire used gaming market that is in turmoil. It's games that came out 6 months ago, a year ago, 5 years ago, 8 years ago, 12 years ago, 20, 30, 40 years ago. The prices are plummeting across the board. Okay? I don't consider PS2 and Xbox games to really be retro. Okay? But their prices, they were going up. These were a lot of the original Xbox games were hard to find, and there's some really obscure PS2 titles out there, and there's still games that go for hundreds of dollars in these consoles. There are, but they're few and far between now, and they're coming down in price. Hopefully, like I said, hopefully things will get better. Now, here's the thing you need to understand. Okay. It's not a good. This is a buyer's market. This is not a time to sell. If you have a huge collection of retro games right now, don't sell them. Hold on to your games. You're just gonna lose your shirt. You know, if the economy was to improve, let's say over the course of 2017, moving into 2018, it's more than likely the prices will climb again. They will go back up because there'll be more demand. Why? Because consumers have more spendable cash. They can afford to spend more, fork out more dough. They can afford to spend more on things like entertainment and video games. And they will. And that will drive the prices higher. And, you know, and I talked about this in another video I just did just the other day, which is that a lot of consoles, like the original Xbox, are within the next few years they're gonna end up like the Saturn and some of these other consoles that are hard to find. That's because they're dying. They're dying, and it's within the next 2 to 3 years. It's gonna get a lot harder to find a working original Xbox console. They were not mass produced to the extent that the PlayStation 2 was. There's a lot fewer of them, a lot fewer, and there is not a console that was ever emulated. There is no working emulator for the original Xbox. I don't care what anybody tells you. See Xbox and all that; those don't work. Eventually it could be emulated, but because of the simple fact that there's less of these consoles out there, they're gonna skyrocket. They're gonna go up in price. Okay. So if there are still consoles and games that you can invest in now that are more than likely to go up in value, even in a bad economy. And the original Xbox consoles are one of those that will continue to climb in value. In fact, the prices I have seen on eBay for the original Xboxes have gone up, and on Craigslist, I'm seeing more and more original Xboxes not go for $30 on Craigslist anymore. They're going for $60. And, $75 with a controller and a few games. I'm like, wow, the prices really go. Well, there's not as many of them. So it makes sense that the price would go up. And there is still some demand for this, You also had a lot of exclusives for the original Xbox that were not available on other consoles, like Dakar 2 and stuff like racing games like that and so forth. And you had the Halo series and things like that. So hopefully things will improve, but there you go. That's the retro gaming bubble. That's why the retro gaming market is in so much turmoil. And like I said, it's not retro games. I shouldn't call it the retro. Don't call it the retro gaming bubble. This is the used gaming bubble. It's the entire used gaming market. I remember when the Xbox One first came out, people were selling their Xbox One games a month after they bought them for $10 on eBay. And you know something else? Everybody says they want the PS4 and the Xbox One. You know what's really funny? Within 2-3 months of these consoles hitting the market, they were used for sale up on eBay in the hundreds, if not thousands, available for sale. People were selling them. You know why? They buy them in December. It gets to the end of January. They go, oh my God, I'm broke. I can't pay my car insurance. Oh, crap, I can't put gas in my car, or there's no food to eat. I've got to pay this bill. Something went wrong with my car. I got to do repairs, whatever the case may be. Now they're selling the console they just bought 2 months ago. Go on eBay. Go look how many people are selling their PS4s and Xbox Ones. It's ridiculous. There's like thousands of them. There's page after page after page. Americans are broke. We do not have money. While I can't speak for the rest of the world, we don't have money here in America, okay? We have the upper middle class, and everybody else is broke, and that's I don't think that I hope it does change, but I'm not counting on it. Not after 16 years of economic decline, it's very unlikely, especially with the we have rapid inflation in America. The U.S. is just seeing huge inflation has just gone way up. Prices have gone way up for anything that is considered a necessary good. Anything is considered something that you absolutely need, like gas in your car, food prices are just ridiculous. Rent has gone up. Your gas bill is ridiculous. There's just a lot. Look at health insurance. Look at health insurance. I have a friend right now. His premiums just skyrocketed. He had a subsidy because he's low income. He was paying $100 a month for his health insurance, about $110 a month. Now he's got to pay $300 a month for the same insurance. See, people don't have money. We're broke. All right, so there you have it. That's the retro gaming bubble. I was just, like I said, I was inspired to do this video because I'm so, I'm glad that people are talking about this, but why are you speculating? Why isn't nobody looking at the facts? And then I realized, you know what? A lot of the people talking about this supposed retro gaming bubble, a lot of them are game collectors. They're game collectors. They have huge collections. A lot of the people on YouTube, these big channels, are diehard game collectors. But what they don't understand is about the market is, how the prices fluctuate based on sales and supply and demand and economic factors. You're not paying attention to that. Why? Because they're not selling games. They typically buy them more than they sell them. Okay? And they're not, and when they do sell, they're not in the business of selling 7 days a week like the guys in eBay are. They're the ones that screwed this up for everybody. They screwed themselves. I was just, it was, for me, it was one face palm after another back at the end of 2015. I'm like, these people are so stupid. Yeah, I mean, I saw games where there was only 3 copies for sale of a single game on the entire platform of eBay. Oh, $5.95 with free shipping. Yeah, it just drives down the value of every single game. Okay, it just drives the value down of the entire industry when people do that. Stupid idiot sellers that are just desperate for money. And what is the point of selling a game for $5.99 anyways? What is the point of ever selling a game for $5.99 on eBay? There is none. Dude, it costs you like $2.25 to ship the game. Then eBay's going to take 8%. Then PayPal's going to take another 2.5%. Dude, I mean, there's like $1 left for you when it's all over. There's nothing there. You cannot make a profit out of that. I don't care who you are, what you say. You're not going to make a profit out of selling games for $6. You can't sell anything on eBay and make a profit for $6. Nothing. It's not going to happen. Not with all the fees they have and everything else, alright? Which their fees are not that bad as long as you're doing business, but the economy is just really kaput. And so there you have it. That's the state of the used gaming industry. Is just crap. And I think we should all keep our fingers crossed it's going to get better. One of the benefits for me was that when I closed down Gamers Bay's store on eBay, I ended up with like 450 original Xbox and PS2 games, which I kept. I gave a bunch of games away for free to friends and so forth, and I've sold a few since then, some odds and ends to a couple of acquaintances and so forth. But I'm holding on to those games. I know I can't get my money for them right now. I wouldn't necessarily lose any money, but there's no money to be made on it. People just aren't spending right now. And so I'm just holding on to the games. A lot of them are complete. I have 3 original Xbox consoles. That moderator with the old school Game Vault, I don't know how many Xboxes he has. He's probably got 100 laying around somewhere. And usually when I need a console, I'll try to call him, But anyways, for those of you who are, whether you're an everyday whether you're an everyday gamer and you're just looking to buy games just to play for fun, or if you are a retro gaming, a real true, tried true retro gaming enthusiast, and you're a real collector, and you want to get your hands on some quality stuff, go to Google search, check out the Old School Game Vault. Just type in Old School Game Vault in Google search. That'll take you to this guy's Brandon's website, and you can go. He also has a store on eBay, and you can buy and sell directly from his website or from his store. Really, I highly recommend him. I trust him. I signed him as a moderator to Gamers Bay community like 2.5 years ago. And we've had people go into community and give this guy positive feedback in there for games that he's sold them. I trust him 100%. And he's highly reputable. He's been in this business. I think if you go look at his feedback on eBay for the Old School Game Vault, it's like 40,000 or something. Feedback, a lot of positive feedback. This guy's really, really reputable, and he has decent prices. He has a huge selection of games. If you see something that's not listed, you can call him, you can message him. But yeah, definitely check that out. And if you get a chance, like and subscribe to this video. Like the video, subscribe to Gamers Bay channel, and look at the link below in the description to Gamers Bay community on Google+. Definitely, you're welcome to join us in our community on G+. And you can make posts there. If you have a gaming channel, we have another community called the Gamers Video Archive. You can check that out as well, and I will include a link to that also. and we promote other YouTube channels on G+, and there's no catches that or anything. You have to have well, as long as you're following the community guidelines, you have to have a full and accurate description of your content in your posts. You cannot just make a post, dump a post, and run. You can't do that. Google will flag it as spam, for one. Without us doing anything, they'll flag it. And if your posts end up in a spam folder in the community, you get reported, and it's by a community that Google trusts, you're going to get suspended for 2 weeks. So it's not worth doing that. So always, if you're going to post on G+ in any communities there, I don't care if it's ours or somebody else's, make sure that you're including a full description of your post. So anyways, I'm glad I was able to get that out there. This is something I've been wanting to talk about for a while. You know, like I said, I see all these people talking about this used gaming market bubble, the retro gaming bubble, but nobody's really explaining why we're stuck in this bubble. We are stuck in a bubble. We are stuck in a bubble. And you know what? It's really painful for a lot of people. This hurt a lot of people's businesses because a lot of people do this for a living. They buy and sell games for a living. You know, like I said, I was buying games from businesses that went under, that were in business for decades. They were in business for years. And I was buying their games because they just called it quits. And then reselling those out. I have disc resurface. I would resurface the games need to be resurfaced and then sell them back out on eBay or even Craigslist. I bought and sold on Craigslist too. That's another good place to buy and sell. There's a lot of collectors still go there. And Facebook, I try not to do business with people on Facebook. They're really negative. The platform's too politically motivated for me, so I pretty much just stay away. I don't really do much of anything on Facebook. But anyways, many thanks for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe, and until next time, take care.